Episode number 328. That person is here, madam, said the officer, leaving the entrance open, and drawing himself up in an attitude of respect. At the same time the door opened, a man appeared on the threshold. He was without hat, carried a sword, and flourished a handkerchief in his hand. Milady thought she recognized this shadow in the gloom. She supported herself with one hand upon the arm of the chair, and advanced as if to meet a certainty. The stranger advanced slowly, and as he advanced, after entering into the circle of light projected by the lamp, Milady involuntarily drew back. Then when she had no longer any doubt, she cried, in a state of stupor, "What, my brother, is it you?" "Yes, fair lady," replied Lord de Winter, making a bow, half courteous, half ironical. "It is I, myself." "But this castle, then, is mine. This chamber is yours. I am, then, your prisoner?" "Nearly so. But this is a frightful abuse of power." "No high-sounding words. Let us sit down and chat quietly, as brother and sister ought to do." Then, turning towards the door, and seeing that the young officer was waiting for his last orders, he said, "All is well, I thank you. Now leave us alone, Mr. Felton." 50. Chat between brother and sister. During the time which Lord de Winter took to shut the door, close a shutter, and draw a chair near to his sister-in-law's footwheel, Milady, anxiously thoughtful, plunged a glance into the depths of possibility, and discovered all the plan, of which she could not even obtain a glance as long as she was ignorant into whose hands she had fallen. She knew her brother-in-law to be a worthy gentleman, a bold hunter, an intrepid player, enterprising with women, but by no means remarkable for his skill in intrigues. How had he discovered her arrival, and caused her to be seized? Why did he detain her? Athos had dropped some words, which proved that the conversation she had with the cardinal had fallen into outside ears, but she could not suppose that he had dug a countermine so promptly and so boldly. She rather feared that her preceding operations in England might have been discovered. Buckingham might have guessed that it was she who had cut off the two studs, and avenged himself for that little treachery, but Buckingham was incapable of going to any excess against a woman, particularly if that woman was supposed to have acted from a feeling of jealousy. This supposition appeared to her most reasonable. It seemed to her that they wanted to revenge the past, and not to anticipate the future. At all events, she congratulated herself upon having fallen into the hands of her brother-in-law, with whom she reckoned she could deal very easily, rather than into the hands of an acknowledged and intelligent enemy.